Good afternoon, students. Hope you all are doing well. Here I am, your Shomi ma'am, and today we are going to begin from the next part of the chapter, Party and Party System in India. We are going to begin the chapter from coalition nature of the Congress. The Congress party, it was challenged by the Muslim League before independence. See children, here is the picture of the Muslim League. Okay, but after independence the Muslim League, it went to Pakistan. Okay, while only a minor base was left at Kerala. Okay, so therefore what happened, by the year 1952 Congress predominantly became the sole, or you can say the single authority party in India. It was the single predominant party in India by the year 1952. Okay, and see, I'm showing you the graph here. If you see 1952, Congress was the predominantly the sole party in India during the year 1952. Okay, now the biggest asset of Congress was that it drew people from all the background. Okay, it drew people from all the background. Okay, now it drew people from backward classes. The Congress drew people from Dalit. It drew people from the farmers. Both rich and poor industrialists were also a part of the Congress. Not only that, Congress also had workers, it had minorities, it had the Brahmins, the leftists as well as the rightists. Okay. Now, along with Nehru, there were some other prominent leaders who were the member of this Congress. Who were those prominent leaders? Those prominent leaders were Kamraj and Jagjeevan Ram. You can see the picture of Kamraj and Jagjeevan Ram on your screen, children. Okay, they were some of the prominent OBC leaders. They belong from the other backward classes, but they were a prominent leader of Congress along with Jawaharlal Nehru. Okay, but thus, Congress was a coalition of disparate groups. Disparate groups means of different groups. Okay, leftist parties like the CPI and the rightist parties like the Bharatiya Janata Sangh acted better as pressure parties rather than opposition parties. Now, those parties existed, but they better existed as pressure groups, but they were not recognized as a proper opposition party because their strength was not as high as the Congress. Okay, their manpower, their support was not as high as the Congress. Because of that reason, those particular parties were considered only as pressure group but not as opposition groups. Okay. Actually, basically, it was the political engineering which helped the Congress to dominate the political system in India. As long as the Congress worked as a coalition incorporating people from different castes and different classes, the other political parties, they remained dysfunctional. And this basically happened in the national level. This basically happened at the national level. But at the state level, the scenario was something different. Okay, at state level there were several other parties, okay, who were able to challenge the supremacy of the Congress. Okay, see children, in this graph if you see, this is the seats obtained by Congress at the national level. Okay, so this were the seats that were obtained by the Congress party till the year 1967. Okay, 1952, 1957, 1962, 1967. Okay, for this 4 consecutive election, or rather you can say till the first 3 consecutive election, the Congress hold the supreme power. It was the supreme power. It was the only party who had its monopoly during this 3 election. Okay, it was a single predominant party in India during this 3 election. Okay, but only I'm talking about this 3 election. But at the state level, if you see, okay, you will find that the graph of Congress, okay, the level of the Congress, it started declining. There were several other political parties who were able to challenge the supremacy of the Congress. Okay, for example, the CPI party, the Communist Party of India, it was able to challenge the supremacy of Congress, specifically in Kerala, in Bengal. And you know, students, that in the year 1967 till 1967, however, you can say that Congress was able to hold in the state legislative assemblies also. In spite of challenging the supremacy of the Congress, still the Congress was able to hold its position, or to hold its position at the state legislative assembly also, or at the state Vidhan Sabha election also. Okay. See students, the supremacy of the Congress did not last for long. Okay, you can see over here in the graph that the supremacy of the Congress, it did not last for long. It started declining slowly, and gradually there has been a fall in the position of the Congress at the state level. Actually, what happened during that time, the Congress, or the coalition nurtured by the Congress, it started basically declining. Okay, now the social and economic development was the major reason because of this decline in the position of Congress, okay, which made the coalition nature of the Congress dysfunctional. You can say actually what happened during that time, the OBCs, they did not accept the Savarna leadership anymore. Okay, not only that, people were not at all ready to accept the westernized Brahmanical elites anymore. Okay, they wanted the agrarian elites also to reap the fruits of to reap the fruits of power, you can say. Okay, so the political decline of the Congress, it led to a political instability within the country. Okay, though the Congress, it dominated the during till the year 1962. Till the year 1962, the basically you can say the Congress dominated the election. Till 1962, everything was okay. After that, slowly and gradually, the graph started declining. Okay, it dominated, or you can say that it dominated the first 3 elections of India. Okay, at the time it formed, but at several times it formed coalition. Like in the year 1954, it formed coalition with the PSP party in Travancore. Okay, in Kochi also to keep the CPI out of power. Okay, likewise in Odisha also it also formed the coalition with the Ganatantra party in the year 1957, but that did not become successful, however, because of the lack of majority. Okay, in the year 1967, it proved to be the turning point of the Congress. See, I am showing you. Basically, I am showing you it. Basically, what happened? See, the year 1967. See, it was the turning point. The graph, it started declining. Okay, it proved to be the turning point for the Congress. In last election, over 5 states and defection saw the failure of its government in almost 3 states. Political scientists regarded this as the turning point in the history of Congress. The political scientists, they termed this particular year 1967 as the turning point in the history of Congress. No doubt 1967 turned out to be a turning point for the Congress dominance, but still the Congress, it gained it was able somehow to balance, and it was able to maintain its majority in the parliament. Okay, now the coalition like attribute of the Congress, it lent an unusual strength to that political party. Okay, now how did it provide an unusual strength to the political party? Okay, through 2 principles. What was that? First was its principle of tolerance, and second was the principle of accommodation. Okay, first was the principle of tolerance, and second was the principle of accommodation. Okay, now what does principle of accommodation means? A coalition broadly accommodates interest of all those particularly who are a part of that parcel or who are a part of that particular political party. Now, coalition thus has to neglect an extreme stand or an issue that has to be strike that has to strike a balance between the coalition partners. Okay, now the hallmark of the coalition basically are the compromise and the adjustments. Okay, so thus because of these two reasons basically the Congress were able to hold on to its coalition for so long. Okay, because these ingredients were absolutely present in the Congress party. Next is its principle of tolerance. Okay, a party having a coalition nature have a greater tolerance. The thing is that whichever party has a coalition, it has a greater power of tolerance. Similarly, the Congress also had a greater power of tolerance. Okay, or in spite of having several internal differences. Okay, now it accommodates the ambition of different groups as well as individuals. Now, the Congress pursued all this thing through its policies during the nationalist movement. Because of the nationalist movement and because of the Congress, people got independence, and that worked somewhere as a miracle in holding the confidence at front of because of which the party was able to hold its confidence at front of the people. Okay, now such groups there are certain groups within the party who fought rather than without leaving the party and became an opposition. There were certain group of people within the political party or within the Congress who fought against the policies of the Congress itself without leaving. They protested against the wrongdoings within the Congress. Okay, and those people or those particular group of people who, in spite being a member of the Congress, they fought against the certain policies of the Congress. They were known as the factions. What were they known as? They were known as factions. Okay, now the coalition nature of the Congress, they tolerated and managed to strike the balance between all the factions. Okay, while only a few of these factions were based on the ideological considerations, most of these were rooted to the personal ambitions or rivalries, you can say. Okay, the internal nationalism rather than being weakness was a strength among the Congress. Now we will study about the major opposition parties that basically came up during the Vidhan Sabha election, or in due course of 1962 till 1967. Okay, so the first political party after the Congress was the Bharatiya Janata Sangh. It can be also known as the BJS party. Okay, it came up in the year 1952 and it was formed by Shama Prasad Mukherjee. Okay, it was the first political party that came up. Okay, Bharatiya Janata Sangh in the year 1951, and it was founded by Shama Prasad Mukherjee. Now, this party, it represented Hindu nationalism. Their ideology was based on Hindu nationalism. By the year 1959, the Swatantra Party also came up. Okay, and their major ideology was capitalism. Okay, they believed in growing business, or they believed in capital economic development. Okay, and they mainly came up in the year 1959. The next was the Swatantra Party, or then after the Bharatiya Janata Sangh, it was the Swatantra Party, and after that it was the Bharatiya Kranti Dal and the Lok Dal. These are the other two parties that came up after this Swatantra Party. Okay, so these parties were the major, or they were basically the pressure groups. You cannot say that they were the opposition. They were basically the pressure groups actually. And in the year 1952 election, there were two socialist parties also. First was the Socialist Party and the Kisan Mazdoor Sabha. Now this two parties, they merged after few years. They merged together and they formed the People's Socialist Party. Later, however, in the year 1955, one of this group formed the Socialist Party under Dr. Ram Manohar Lohia, and later the Socialist Party, People's Socialist Party, basically you can say, it merged to form the United Socialist Party or the USP party. Later the People's Socialist Party or the PSP was formed out of it. In the year 1974, the USP marched into the Bharatiya Lok Dal, or while the PSP and the Lok Dal marched into the Janata Party. A significant attribute to this parties were that they were at a point of time were a part of the Congress itself. Now all these parties were formed by breaking up of the Congress. Okay, now we will discuss about the role of opposition parties during the Congress era. See students, India had a number of political parties at the time of independence. Okay, now these parties did not have much electoral gain during the Congress era. Those particular political parties, except the Congress, did not have much electoral gains. Okay, in spite of being quite vibrant. Okay, now most of those parties have been active before 1952 only. In the year 1967 and in the 1970, these political parties played a very important role again. Okay, now what was their main role as an opposition? Okay, their main role as an opposition was to criticize the policies of the Congress. Okay, they could only criticize the policies of the Congress. Okay, now it also prevented the system of anti-democracy. Somewhere those opposition groups, they were able to maintain a balance of democracy. Okay, or they were able to maintain democracy in the society. Okay, because it prevented, or they prevented the Congress party from becoming an autocratic ruler, or they prevented the Congress from becoming anti-democracy. Okay, and they were also the Congress part the opposition parties, they also helped, or they also prevented the dominance of the Congress. They also prevented the Congress party from becoming dominant. Okay, so this were the role of the opposition that were played by them during the Congress era. Okay, today up to this. I'll see you soon in my next video. Till then, have a good day. Thank you.